You keep waiting for a feeling that comes after the action. You keep thinking confidence is supposed to happen before you act. That one day you'll wake up and suddenly feel ready, certain, fearless, prepared. And once that feeling arrives, you'll finally start speaking up, taking risks, putting yourself out there, setting boundaries, posting the content, applying for the opportunity, walking away from what drains you, or becoming the version of yourself you keep imagining. But that's not how confidence works. Confidence was never meant to come first. Confidence is the result. It's the after effect. It's what your nervous system develops after repeated exposure, repeated survival, and repeated proof that you can handle what you once avoided. That's why waiting for confidence keeps you stuck. You're waiting for evidence to appear before the behavior that creates the evidence has even started. And this is where most people misunderstand themselves. They think the problem is low confidence, but low confidence is usually just low evidence. Your system does not trust you because it has not seen enough proof. It has seen hesitation, delay, retreat, avoidance, starting and stopping, overthinking instead of moving. So, when you expect confidence to magically appear without changing your behavior, your nervous system does not believe you because it trusts patterns more than intentions. Your brain doesn't trust words, it trusts memory. Your nervous system is not listening to your motivational speeches, it is listening to your history. It is constantly scanning for evidence based on what you repeatedly do. That means confidence is not built through positive thinking alone. It is built through remembered experiences. If every time discomfort appears, you avoid the situation, your brain records that. If every time fear appears, you retreat, your system records that too. And over time, those repeated moments create an internal expectation. Your brain starts predicting your future behavior based on your past actions, not because it hates you, but because prediction is its job. This is why someone can be intelligent, talented, attractive, capable, and still deeply insecure. Because insecurity is often not about ability. It's about accumulated evidence of hesitation. Your system has watched you repeatedly pull away from discomfort, so it assumes future discomfort will lead to the same outcome. That prediction becomes your emotional experience. And then people call that lack of confidence. Avoidance creates evidence too. Most people think confidence disappears because they failed, but confidence often disappears because they avoided. Every avoided action becomes evidence, every delayed conversation, every boundary you didn't enforce, every opportunity you talked yourself out of, every moment you abandoned yourself because discomfort appeared. Your nervous system notices all of it. Think about what happens when you repeatedly say, "I'll do it later. I'm not ready yet. I need to feel more certain first. I'll wait until I feel more confident." At the surface, those thoughts sound reasonable, but underneath them is a behavioral pattern: retreat. And your system interprets retreat the same way every time. It interprets it as danger avoidance, which means the next time the situation appears, your anxiety increases instead of decreases. That's the trap people get stuck in. They avoid situations to temporarily reduce discomfort, but the avoidance itself becomes evidence that the situation is dangerous. So the fear grows. And then they mistake that growing fear for proof that they're incapable. Confidence is not a feeling, it's a memory of survival. Think about anything you can now do comfortably that once made you nervous. Driving, speaking to strangers, going to the gym, posting online, public speaking, having difficult conversations. At one point, your system treated those things like threats. Your heart raced, your thoughts spiraled, you doubted yourself. But eventually something changed, not because fear disappeared first, because repetition happened first. Your brain collected evidence that you survived the experience, then it updated its prediction. That's all confidence is, a prediction built from remembered survival. This is why confidence cannot be built entirely in your head. Your nervous system needs proof. It needs repeated experiences where discomfort appears and you continue anyway. That continuation is what creates the new memory. And those memories become the foundation of self-trust. You keep trying to feel ready instead of building proof. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They wait to feel emotionally prepared before they act. But readiness is often just familiarity. And familiarity only comes after repetition. You don't become ready before exposure. You become ready through exposure. The problem is that your brain interprets unfamiliarity as danger. So, when you step towards something new, your system generates resistance, doubt, anxiety, hesitation, physical discomfort. And most people interpret those sensations incorrectly. They think, this means I shouldn't do it. But discomfort does not automatically mean danger. A lot of the time, it simply means unfamiliar. That distinction changes everything. Because once you stop interpreting discomfort as a stop sign, you stop waiting for emotional certainty before acting. And that's where confidence starts forming. Self-trust is built through follow-through. Confidence and self-trust are deeply connected. Every time you follow through on something difficult, your brain records it. Every time you do what you said you would do despite discomfort, you reinforce a new identity. But the opposite is also true. Every broken promise to yourself weakens trust. Every abandoned goal. Every moment where discomfort appears and you immediately negotiate with yourself. Your system notices the inconsistency. And over time, you stop trusting your own intentions. You stop believing yourself when you say you're going to change. Not consciously, but internally. That's why self-trust feels broken for so many people. It's not because they're weak, it's because their nervous system has accumulated years of evidence showing inconsistency under pressure. And that's why rebuilding confidence is not about affirmations. It's about rebuilding behavioral integrity. You don't need a different personality. This is the part most people never hear. You do not need to become a different person before you act. You do not need to transform your personality first. You do not need to eliminate fear before moving. You need evidence. That's it. Evidence that you can survive discomfort. Evidence that you can follow through. Evidence that you can act while uncertain. Evidence that anxiety does not control your behavior. And the only way to build that evidence is through repeated action under discomfort. Your nervous system learns through exposure, not intellectual understanding. You can intellectually understand confidence all day and still feel terrified in real situations. Because understanding something cognitively is not the same as teaching it to your nervous system. Your nervous system learns experientially. That means reading about confidence will never fully replace exposure. Watching motivational videos will never replace action. Thinking positively will never fully override repeated avoidance. Your system updates through lived experience. This is why exposure therapy works. Gradual repeated exposure teaches the brain, I survived this. Then I can probably survive it again. Eventually, this is no longer a threat. That progression is confidence formation happening in real time. Small evidence changes identity faster than big goals. People often try to rebuild confidence through massive transformations, huge goals, drastic changes, extreme pressure. But identity usually shifts through smaller, repeated evidence. Tiny moments matter more than people realize. Getting out of bed when you said you would. Going to the gym even when you don't feel like it. Sending the message you've been avoiding. Speaking honestly in a conversation. Posting the content instead of over-editing it forever. Each one becomes evidence, and evidence compounds. That's the important part. Your nervous system doesn't need perfection. It needs repetition. Because repeated proof changes prediction, and prediction becomes identity. You start feeling different after your brain has enough proof. One of the strangest parts of confidence building is that the emotional shift usually happens later than expected. People think they'll feel confident first and then act differently. But usually you act differently for a while before your emotions catch up. At first you still feel nervous, you still doubt yourself, you still feel resistance. But you continue anyway, and eventually your brain starts updating. You notice you recover faster, you hesitate less, you overthink less. You stop catastrophizing every outcome, not because you forced confidence emotionally, because your nervous system finally has enough evidence to stop predicting danger every time. The real goal is not confidence, it's self-trust. This is the deeper layer most people miss. Confidence is useful, but self-trust is more important because confidence fluctuates. Some days you feel strong, other days you don't. But self-trust means, I know I'll still act even when I don't feel confident. That changes everything because now your behavior is no longer dependent on emotional state. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for certainty. You stop needing the perfect feeling before moving. You trust yourself to continue even while uncomfortable. That is a real stability. You become someone your nervous system believes. Eventually, the pattern changes, not because life becomes easier, but because your brain stops seeing you as someone who retreats every time discomfort appears. Your system starts expecting follow-through instead of avoidance, action instead of hesitation, consistency instead of retreat. And that expectation changes your emotional experience. Things that once felt terrifying become manageable. Things that once triggered anxiety become normal. Things that once required massive emotional effort become automatic. That is how confidence actually forms. Not through wishing, not through waiting, not through thinking about action endlessly, through evidence. Stop waiting to feel different before you move. You don't need more confidence before you begin. You need more proof. Proof that you can survive discomfort. Proof that you can continue while uncertain. Proof that fear does not control your actions. Proof that you can trust yourself to follow through. And the only way to build that proof is through movement. Not perfect movement, not fearless movement. Just movement. Because confidence is not what creates action. Action creates confidence. And once your nervous system has enough evidence, you stop needing to convince yourself. You already know who you are. Thank you for watching. This is Mind Sticks.